Peace be upon you, brothers and sisters. This is Said Mirza from ReadingNotReason.com, and in today's talk, I wanted to look at what the Quran has to say about Satan, the shaytan. And I think this is a very important topic because, God said in the Quran that Satan is an enemy to you, take him as an enemy. And there are many warnings in the Quran about Satan. Obviously, Satan was responsible for the expulsion of Adam and his spouse from the garden, and he made a promise to God that he will mislead them altogether, except your sincere servants. So obviously, he's a manifest foe, he's an open foe, but a lot of people they don't really understand the nature of Satan or how Satan operates. So the Quran gives us many insights into how the Satan operates and how he tricks man. So what I want to do is look in the Quran for the keyword Satan. There's actually many verses, so we're not going to go over through all of them, but we'll look at some interesting ones to kind of give you a perspective. Um, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is because ultimately the Quran is the criterion. It is the knowledge, right? It's the balance. So the thoughts you get in your head, if you actually sit down one day and when you're going to sleep, especially when you just sit down and observe your thoughts, you're going to notice that many thoughts randomly pop up into your head, and you get flashbacks about things that might have happened, even things that happened many years ago. You get them, and uh, uh, obviously there's emotions attached to these thoughts. And the way the Satan operates is that he provokes to evil. He uses these feelings to jealousy, animosity, greed, hatred. Um, that I'm right. That sort of idea that I have, that people have in their head, and I have it as well. It's the ego. So the Satan uses that, and it's troubling because how can you differentiate between what Satan is saying and what your own soul is whispering, right? Because they're both the same voices. So the Quran, the criterion in the Quran, the knowledge that's given us, we have to run all the thoughts that come in our head through that criterion and determine whether it is something that is in line with God's commands or it is against God's commands. If it's against God's commands, then that is the Satan's voice. So let's look into reader.quranic.com. This is Brother Garen's translation, the Quran, a complete revelation. And we'll look at some of the verses in the Quran to kind of give you an idea of how Satan operates and the kind of things he does to you have to take him as an enemy, and if you don't understand the enemy, there's not much of a chance of you defeating him. And those who have been given knowledge, they are the ones who can understand the whispers of the Satan, because the evildoers, Satan makes their deeds fair to them. So for instance, an average American, he has no problem with sleeping with a bunch of women, or vice versa. And he says, well, as long as it's consensual, what's the problem? But as we know in the Quran, this is a great misdeed, fornication. And but he can't see that because he is lacking knowledge, which is given in the Quran. The writ of God is in the Quran. So he is not able to differentiate between the voice of Satan and the voice of his soul. So this is why it's so important to run everything through the knowledge that we are given in the Quran to see whether it is in line with God's commandments or not. So let's look at reader.coronite.com, and I'll stop and make off comments as we go. Okay, so I'm just gonna search for Satan, and it's gonna pull up. Okay, so 78 verses. This is not something that is not doable. Actually, 78 verses, you can go through them in one sitting, but in the interest of keeping this video short, I'm not gonna go through each one of them. Okay, so let's look at the first sort of like what Satan did with Adam and his wife to make them expel them from the garden. So we have here chapter 2, verse 35. And we said, O Adam, dwell thou and thy wife in the garden, and eat thereof freely wheresoever you will, but approach not this tree, lest you be of the wrongdoers. But the Satan caused them to fall therefrom and turned them out of what they were in. And we said, Get you all down, an enemy to one another, and for you in the earth are a dwelling place and provision for a time. Then Adam received words from his Lord, and he turned towards him. He is the accepting of repentance, the merciful. We said, get you down from it altogether, and if there comes to you guidance from me, whoso follows my guidance, no fear will be upon them, nor will they grieve. So, the guidance that comes from God throughout the ages, now final revelation, the Quran, which is preserved, is the only guidance that's left. God said that whoso follows my guidance will not, no fear will be upon them. So again, to run through everything, the thoughts you get, the ideas you get, run it through the Quran to see if they are in line with God's commandments. Okay, let's keep going here. Oh, it's the Satan's teach. Uh, they teach men sorcery, so this is another thing. Obviously, most people understand that, so I'm not gonna get into this. Okay, here we go. Okay, chapter 2, 168 is important. Okay, O mankind, eat of what is in the earth, lawful and good, and follow not the footsteps of the Satan. He is to you an open enemy. He but enjoins upon you evil and sexual immorality, and that you ascribe to God what you know not. And when it is said to them, follow what God has sent down, they say, nay, we will follow that upon which we found our fathers, even though their fathers did not reason, nor were they guided. So, uh, what does that have to do with us? Well, the religion you're born in, you need to question it. You need to go over its tenets and reject everything that's not in the Quran. That's what this means. Follow what God has sent down. And Satan, he enjoins upon us evil and sexual immorality. Okay, so this is important. Stay away from all those the immoral stuff, the sexually immoral stuff, especially. Let's look at this one, chapter 2, verse 28. Okay, here we have something interesting. We're going to start at verse 204. And among men is he whose speech concerning the life of this world impresses thee, and he calls God as witness to what is in his heart, and he is the most contentious of debaters. And when he turns away, he strives in the land, working corruption therein, and destroying tilth and progeny. And God loves not corruption. And when it is said to him, be thou in prudent fear of God, pride in his sin takes him, and sufficient for him is Gehenna, an evil resting place. And among men is he who sells himself, seeking the pleasure of God, and God is kind to his servants. O you heed warning, enter into surrender completely, and follow not the footsteps of the Satan. He is to you an open enemy. But if you slip after the clear signs have come to you, then know that God is exalted in might and wise. So it's pretty self-explanatory that if you have pride, you think you are the high and mighty, then you are following the Satan, following the footsteps of Satan, because Satan refused to submit to Adam when God commanded him. Okay, let's keep going. Chapter 2, verse 268. The Satan promises you poverty and enjoins upon you sexual immorality, but God promises you forgiveness and bounty from him, and God is encompassing and knowing. Interestingly, I read just today a news article that said that women in Colombia are now becoming cam girls because they don't have food to eat. So there you go. See, this is the thing. The Satan, uh, he is giving you that fear that you will die hungry, and he is enjoining upon you sexual immorality. So prostitution, all these things usually stem from this idea. Um, that we can't live, we'll die of hunger if we don't turn towards this evil. Okay, consuming usury, that is one thing that is definitely a mark of the Satan. And you can read chapter 2 verse 275 for that. Let's see. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, this one is classic, chapter 4, verse 60, because this is talking about the religionists, and I'm gonna give you an example of the Muslims specifically. And the reason I'm picking on Muslims is because I was born and raised in a Muslim family, so I'm quite aware of the thinking and the mindset. Okay, let's read here. Hast thou not considered those who claim to believe in what is sent down to thee and what was sent down before thee, desiring to go for judgment to idols when they were commanded to reject it, and the Satan desires to lead them far astray? Now, this is talking about people who claim that they believe in the revelation of God, and specifically the Muslims, they believe in the Quran, but they don't really believe in it because when it comes time for judgment, they won't want to judge via the Quran. They want to judge via the Hadith literature or via um, the fatwas of the sheikhs and imams and muftis and all those other clowns. Or they would rather turn to the secular system and look for justice there. So this is what it's talking about. And the Satan desires to lead them far astray. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, this is interesting. Chapter 4, verse 76. Those who heed warning fight in the cause of God, and those who ignore warning fight in the cause of idols. Then fight the allies of the Satan. The plan of the Satan is weak. Think about that for a minute. Who is fighting in the cause of idols? You have these big armies, right? Doesn't matter. Pakistani army, American army, Chinese army, Russian army. And all these men are fighting in the cause of idols because the state is an idol. The state commands to evil. The state commands that you serve it and not God. So those who are fighting in the ranks of these armies, they are fighting in the cause of idols. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, this one is interesting. Now, see here is this is mm, the promise of Satan. What he said to God that he would do when he was cast out. So we're gonna read it. Um, okay, let's start at verse 117. They call besides to him safe to females, and they call safe to rebellious Satan, whom God cursed, and he said, I will take of thy servants an appointed portion, and I will lead them astray, and I will arouse desires in them, and I will command them, and they will slit the ears of cattle, and I will command them, and they will change the creation of God. And whoso takes the Satan for ally instead of God, he has suffered clear loss. He promises them and arouses desires in them, and the Satan promises them only delusion. Okay, so first of all, they call besides to him save to females. This is referring to the idols that the people at the time of Muhammad were worshipping, Allah, Uzza, and Manat. In the case of the Hindus today, you have them worshipping the idols, Lakshmi and um, the other goddesses they have. So they are, when they are calling them these idols, they are actually calling to the rebellious Satan, and this is what Satan said. He said, "I will lead them astray, and I will arouse desires in them. Desires. I want this. I want that. I want that. Why is this person better than me? The jealousy, the hatred. It's and actually, if you look at the media, as an aside, especially the music industry, you will see that they are also arousing the same desires of lust, of jealousy, of greed, hatred. This is sort of the common thread in all of these things, and the dramas, all these things. That's all they do. They just inspire you towards hatred, which is the work of the Satan. Okay, now here's interesting. I will command them, and they will slit the ears of cattle. What is this talking about? It's talking about um, changing the creation of God. Because if you go and look into the pagan religions, you will see that this is a classic thing that they used to do. They used to cut the ears of the cattle and mutilate them and mutilate the boys, which is something that is still ongoing. I'm talking about circumcision, which is sort of like the rite of passage in Judaism and Islam. This is changing the creation of God. God nowhere commands that the male be circumcised. Nowhere does it say that, but they do it because they're following a religion that is essentially satanic. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, chapter 5, verse 90. O you who heed warning, wine and games of chance and altars and divining arrows are an abomination of the work of the Satan, so avoid it that you might be successful. Pretty self-explanatory. We know these things are evil. This is not up for debate. But people have forgotten. People have forgotten what evil is and what good is, and they're thinking good is evil and evil is good. That's really what's happening now. Okay, and this is the reason why wine is and games of chance are prohibited. Well, they're not prohibited, but it says to avoid them. The Satan but wishes to cause between you enmity and hatred in wine and the games of chance, and to turn you away from the remembrance of God and from the duty. So will you not desist? In my college days, I had the chance of being around drunks quite often because that's what usually happens in college on the weekends. And that's what I noticed, that people would lose their sense, of what's right and wrong, and they would get into these fights, the guys, and they would lust over women. And it's just, to me, it was really clear what was going on. There was no fun in that. There was just, pure, just evil. Okay, this one is interesting. Chapter 6, verse 43. Because uh, if you have noticed, there's many places in the Quran where God talks about the punishment becoming binding upon them, and deaf, dumb, and blind, they do not reason. And the reason is that now, basically, they are completely in the trial of Satan, and their hearts are sealed, so they will never be guided. It says, "Oh, that when our disaster came upon them, they had but humbled themselves, but their hearts hardened, and the Satan made fair to them what they were doing. So when they forgot that whereof they had been reminded, we opened upon them the gates of all things. When they had exulted in what they were given, we took them suddenly, and then were they in despair. And cut off was the root of the people who did wrong, and praise belongs to God, the Lord of all creation." So now we are in the final stages where the opens up all things had the gates have all been opened up for people, especially in the West, in the U.S. Everything is available. Everything has been opened. All the bounties of God are open for them. So we're pretty much at the end. It says, "And when they had exulted in what they were given, we took them suddenly." And this has also come to pass, so when they forgot that whereof they had been reminded. So this is talking about the morality that was intrinsic in any civilization, even the Western civilization, to a point where decency and evil was, there was a clear delineation, and people knew what was right and wrong. But now they have forgotten everything. They have no concept of what is good and evil. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, this is one is interesting, and the reason it's interesting is because you can see the parallels between what Islam, the Islam that is being practiced now, what kind of mindset these people have. And again, I live among Muslims. My family is Muslim, so I every day I see this is not something that I'm just coming up with, and this too, if you are born and raised in a Muslim family. So we gotta go back a little bit here. Okay, let's look at. Okay, let's start at chapter 6, verse 68. "And when thou seest those who discourse vainly concerning our proofs, turn thou away from them until they discourse vainly concerning a subject other than it. And if the Satan causes thee to forget, then sit thou not after reminded with the wrongdoing people." That's just classic Muslim activity where they discourse mainly about proofs. What they're actually trying to figure out is when the day of judgment is, what the signs are, and how to follow the Sunnah of the Prophet. This is really what they use the Quran for. So they're discoursing mainly about God's ayats. They're not really interested in in reforming themselves and understanding the message. "And not upon those of prudent fear is any account for them in anything, but a reminder that they might be in prudent fear. And leave thou those who take their doctrine as play and diversion, and whom the life of this world has deluded, and remind thou with it, lest a soul be given up to destruction for what it earned. It has not besides God ally or intercessor, and though it offer in compensation every equivalence, it will not be accepted from it. Those are they who are given up to destruction for what they earned. They have scalding water and a painful punishment for what they denied." So leave them who take their deen, the doctrine. Uh, that's what the word deen means. It's not a religion per se, it's more a set of rules, protocols that you have to implement in your life. That's what deen is. It's a transaction. Um, anyway, so they have taken this as play and diversion. And, I meet a lot of Muslims especially Muslims who have a big beard and who are praying 5 times a day the salat and all this, and talking about how they're the greatest Muslims to ever live and emulating the companions of the Prophet, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, they all have nice cars, they have big houses, they're greedy, they want to live as long as they can and enjoy as much as they can. So for them, the life of this world has deluded them, because they think that by just doing this 5 salat daily, they're saved. And that is their delusion. Say thou, shall we call rather than to God to what neither profits us nor harms us, and we turn back on our heels after God has guided us, like one whom the Satan seduced in the earth, lost in confusion, he having companions inviting him to guidance? Come thou to us, say thou, the guidance of God, that is guidance, and we have been commanded to submit to the Lord of all creation. This is another thing that Muslims, I'm sorry to say, this is the truth though, because this is what happens. This whole business of sending salawat to Muhammad. Okay, this is calling to other than God. Let's be real. Okay, let's be honest. This is shirk. This is ascribing partnership with God. Why do you need to say the name of a man with God? You try to understand. I mean, the initiating um, statement of the religion of Islam is there's no God but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, which again is shirk, because you are associating with God another partner. You understand that? So, and now here we have this is another classic thing. Muslims, they themselves are misguided, but you see the sheikhs. This is actually quite comedic. Now I see this a lot on YouTube, where every sheikh is trying to outdo the other sheikh by calling men to God, but they set up these booths or whatever, and they waylay men. Basically, um, they bug them. People are just going about their business, but then these people, the Muslim sheikhs, and it's not just the Muslims, the Christians do this quite a lot too, where they're just harassing people, trying to get them wrapped up in some weird logical fallacy or something like that, and most of the time it's just arguing for no reason. So these are the men who think they're guiding men. But look what it says. Like one whom the Satan seduced in the earth, lost in confusion, he having companions inviting him to guidings, come thou to us. So these men themselves are misguided, and they are actually serving the Satan, and they're calling other men towards them. Because ultimately, God is the one who guides. This is the part that's important. And God says that we will certainly guide those who strive for our paths. So those who are really looking for guidance and who are sincere, God will guide them. It's not a sheikh or mufti or me that can guide anyone. Okay, let's keep going. Chapter 6, verse 121. And eat not that over which the name of God has not been remembered, and it is perfidy, and the Satans instruct their allies to dispute with you, and if you obey them, you are idolaters. See, classic behavior by the religionists. They are always disputing with you. If you tell them, this is what God said in the Quran, or don't do this, don't go to Makkah and do idol worship, they're gonna start arguing with you. Because again, they're in the trail. I want you to understand. Look, if you don't observe your thoughts, if you don't stop, you don't counter the suggestions of the Satan, and if you don't really try to control yourself, then he completely controls you, and you are just like the cattle, deaf, dumb, and blind. And then so if the Satan instructs you to do something, you'll do it. So here it says, and the Satans instruct their allies to dispute with you. So you need to take a step back and try to control yourself, observe, and um, try to take some time and think about what you're doing, what you're saying. This is the key, really. Um, and at this part, and eat not of that whichever the name of God has not been remembered. This is some religious rite, I guess, at that time that people were doing. And this is just classic religion stuff, where they go over stuff that they command stuff that's not in the Quran, that God never commanded to do, or they prohibit you from doing things that God commanded you to do, basically to try to get you away from the guidance of God. Let's keep going. Chapter 7, verse 30. Okay, we could probably just go to verse 29. Say thou, my Lord has enjoined equity. Uphold your countenances at every place of worship, and call to him, sincere to him in doctrine. As he created you, so you will return. A faction he guided, and upon a faction was misguidance due. They took the Satans as allies instead of God and think they are guided. So don't take the Satans as allies. What it means here is that those people who are already being controlled by the Satan, they are the Satans. So don't take them as allies. Don't depend upon them. Don't look to them for guidance. Don't look for them for anything. Be cautious of them, um, because ultimately God is the one who is your ally, and He is guiding you through the Quran. So keep reading the Quran and follow what the Quran says. See here, this is interesting. This is what I was saying. You need to take a step back. Uh, Chapter 7, verse 200. And if they provoke thee a provocation from the Satan, seek thou refuge in God. He is hearing and knowing. Those who are in prudent fear, when a visitation from the Satan touches them, they take heed, and then they do see. When their brethren assist them in error, then do they not cease. Okay, now just to break this down, what it's saying is that if you get a provocation to evil from the Satan, right? Maybe someone, um, I don't know, talked to you in a wrong manner. You felt you were hurt. This happens quite often where uh, people don't really have any respect for anyone else. It's just they'll blurt out whatever they want to blurt out, and so you want to respond back. You get angry. So here's the provocation that you're getting from the Satan. So you're supposed to remember God and be cautious. Understand that the Satan is trying to take a hold of you. Those who are in prudent fear, when a visitation from the Satan touches them, they take heed. So now they observe, they realize, okay, this is the Satan who's trying to get me to act. Okay, he's provoking me. Because this person did something to me doesn't mean that I go and respond in an evil way with him. It's better to forgive and forget, and be patient. Obviously, you have the Quran is giving, God is giving you the leave to respond with evil with evil. That's not a question. What I'm saying is that you um, need to take a step back from the situation, and more often than time, if you respond in an evil way, the situation will deteriorate. This, okay? So this is why it's so important to kind of keep yourself grounded. When their brethren assist them in error, then they do not cease. Okay, it's talking about the people who are the followers of Satan. That when Satan um, he provokes them, these people, they don't take heed. They don't observe. They move forward. They do not cease. And she is giving you an example right after that. And when thou bringest them not approved, they say, "Oh, that thou hadst but chosen one." See, they want to just argue, so they're disputing because the Satan has taken control of them. So they have to have a comeback. See, say thou, I follow only what is revealed to me from my Lord. This is a means of insight from your Lord and guidance and a mercy for people who believe. See, so this is the best response you can give him. Um, you could give him other responses too, but here's the response that you should give them because you are grounded. You don't want to escalate the situation because these people, that's what they live and breathe. This is their fodder. They want to provoke others so they can get a response and they get a rise, and then they want to continue. They're completely lost. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, this is talking about chapter 12, verse 5. This is in the context of Yusuf. He had a dream, and his father advised him. He said, O my son, relate thou not thy dream to thy brothers, lest they plan a plan against thee. The Satan is to man an open enemy. So, you would incite them to jealousy and that they would commit um, evil. That's what it's saying. Okay, this is interesting. Chapter 14, verse 22. And the Satan will say when the matter is concluded, God promised you the promise of truth, and I promised you, but I betrayed you. And I had not over you any authority except to call you, and you responded to me. So blame not me, but blame yourselves. I cannot aid you, and you cannot aid me. I deny your ascribing to me a partnership before the wrongdoers, for them is a painful punishment. This is Satan um, promising you the promise, which is a false promise, which is what? That you will continue to live on this earth. There will be no end to your um, enjoyment. And you know this is a false promise. You see this every day. People die every day. Doesn't matter how much money you accumulate, enjoy your life, you're still gonna die. So this is what Satan's promise was, that there will never be an end to you, a dominion that decays not. See, and God's promise is that if you do good deeds and believe in Him, then He will enter you into the garden on the day of judgment. And then you will be raised up. And on this day, obviously, on the day of judgment, God's promise will be manifest, and it will be, confirmed to be the truth. Okay, let's keep going. See here again, the caution is there to improve your speech, to understand what's going on. Chapter 17, verse 53. And say thou to my servants that they say that which is best. The Satan provokes to evil between them. The Satan is to man an open enemy. This is interesting. This is again that exchange between Satan and God on the day, on the day when he was accursed. He was thrown out. Here he says. He said, Hast thou seen this whom thou hast honored above me? If thou grant me respite until the day of resurrection, I will master his progeny save a few. Said he, Depart thou, and whoso follows thee of them, Gehenna will be your reward and ample reward. And incite thou whom thou canst of them with thy voice, and rally thou horse and foot against them, and partner thou them in their wealth and children, and promise thou them. But the Satan promises and them only delusion. My servants over them thou hast no authority, and thy Lord suffices as disposer of affairs. So here we have the exchange where Satan saying that if you grant me respite unto the day of resurrection, I will master his progeny save a few, Adam's progeny. And God said to him, And incite thou whom thou canst of them with thy voice. So this is the voice that you hear inside your head. Okay? And there's no differentiation between the voice you hear. Satan's voice or your own soul is the same thing. And that's why people get confused, because they think this is coming from them, but it's actually the Satan. And rally thou horse and foot against them. This is obviously talking about mustering all the armies, which, again, I keep talking about the state, because the state is the real servant of Satan. And the state uses its armies, its soldiers, to persecute and prosecute the believers. That's what they do. And partner thou them in their wealth and children. Now, see, this is the part where it says that this is a trial, your wealth and children. Why? Because you fear loss of your wealth, and you fear that your children, some harm will come to them if you stand up for truth and stand up against the state, and work in God's way, because you have to quit your career, your cushy job, and you're afraid that how you're gonna support your family. So, but this is all delusion. He This is not real. God is the one who gives, and He is the one who takes. And then God says, "My servants, over them thou hast no authority." See, so Satan has no authority over Adam and his progeny. That's what God means when He's saying servants. It's just not the believers. Satan has no authority. All he can do is, it says, on the day of judgment, He said, "I called, you answered." That's it. So understand that the state, even though all the propaganda machine is there 24/7, they can't really do anything to you. Yeah, this one is very interesting. See, it says, chapter 19, verse 83. Dost thou not see that we send the Satans upon the false claimers of guidance, inciting them ever onwards? So hasten thou not against them, we but number for them a number. Okay, now think about that for a minute, because uh, if you understand what Brother Gans is translating as false claimers of guidance, the Al Kafirun, he's talking about the religionists. Um, you see the work that they're doing, uh, they will never stop. See, because the Satans are upon them, and they're inciting them ever onwards. Um, you see that. You see these men um, calling men towards evil by having them follow script things that are not in the scripture. You see, to serve a religion. So that's what it means, that these men, they you see them doing this. They will never stop. They will continue. They can't stop. Okay, now we're on second page here. So this is not a lot of verses. You can actually go through all these verses, like I said, and look them over and read it in context as well. Okay, chapter 22, verse 3. And among men is he who disputes concerning God without knowledge, and follows every rebellious Satan, against whom it is decreed that whoso takes him as ally, him will he lead astray and guide him to the punishment of the inferno. Disputes concerning God without knowledge. I've been doing this for long enough where this is so true. It does. You see this day and night. You have people in the comments disputing with you without any knowledge. They have no idea what they're talking about. They follow their rebellious Satan. They follow their pride. They follow the ego. They believe they know it all. See, and so it doesn't. They will never see the truth, because their hearts are blinded. This is the punishment, because you denied God's revelation. You denied His proofs. Okay, this is interesting. Chapter 22, verse 52. And I have a little bit of a different take on this. Um, let's read this. And we send not before thee any messenger or prophet, save that when he desired, the Satan cast into his desire. But God abolishes what the Satan casts. Then God makes firm his proofs, and God is knowing and wise, that he might make what the Satan casts as a mean of denial for those in whose hearts is disease, and those whose hearts are hard, and the wrongdoers are in extreme schism, and that those given knowledge might know that it is the truth from thy Lord, and believe in it, and that their hearts might humble themselves to him, and God guides those who heed warning to a straight path. So it's saying that even the messengers and prophets, they were not immune to the Satan's machinations. The Satan was able to whisper to them, and now this is a problem, because the messengers and prophets, they were getting the revelation from God. So someone could come and say, "Look, how do you know that this has not been tampered with?" When we as human beings are always being the voice of Satan is in us. He is commanding us. So how can you differentiate between the truth of God and Satan's whispers? And this is what it says: "But God abolishes what the Satan casts." So when the revelation was revealed to the messengers and prophets, then even if the Satan tried to interject in between or corrupt it, God abolished what the Satan cast, and He made firm His proofs. So this is a sort of a reminder that God was obviously, God can do anything, so He preserved the Quran when it was being revealed to Muhammad. Satan could not come in between. Then it shifts over. It says that he might make what the Satan casts as a mean of denial for those in whose hearts is disease, and those whose hearts are hard. So these people, the what the Satan casts in them is this doubt, that this revelation might have been corrupted, or that this man didn't really receive anything. He's just talking out of vain desire. So this is the thoughts that the Satan is casting into them, which they believe, because their hearts are diseased and their hearts are hard, and because they believe that, then they're misguided, and that those who given knowledge might know that it is the truth from thy Lord. So those people who are given knowledge, who are given access to the Quran, they believe in it, that it is all from God. and that is the truth from Lord, from our Lord, and their hearts are humbled to God. Okay, let's keep going. Again, asking you, telling you, commanding you to seek refuge in God. And say thou, my Lord, I seek refuge in thee from the goading of the Satans, and I seek refuge in thee, my Lord, lest they be present with me. So always we need to be aware of the Satan. Okay, here it says, chapter 25, verse 29, he led me astray from the remembrance after it reached me, and the Satan is to man a traitor. That's pretty classic, again, Muslim sheikh behavior, where the Muslim sheikh will give you one ayat from the Quran and um, five hadiths from Bukhari, and he's leading you astray from the remembrance after it reaches you. Um, okay, chapter 26, verse 22 21. Shall I inform you upon whom the Satans descend? They descend upon every sinful deceiver. They gave ear, and most of them are liars. And the poets, those who err, follow them. Dost thou not see that they wander in every valley, and that they say what they do not? So this is upon whom the Satans descend. This descend upon people who are lying to themselves, and they're saying, "Yeah, we're listening to Quran, we're reading the Quran," but they're not really reading or listening to Quran. They're just going through the motions. Again, this is classic Muslim behavior. Um, and the poets, those who are follow them. This is talking about obviously people who are in the Hollywood industry now, or the Bollywood industry, or whatever. Those who write fictions, who write stories. Um, the people who most people are impressed by these actors, by these writers, by these directors, and they follow them into the fire. Chapter 28, verse 15. And he entered the city at a time of heedlessness among its people, and found therein two men fighting, one of his sect and the other of his enemy. And he who was of his sect sought aid of him against him who was of his enemy. Then Moses struck him and put an end to him. He said, "This is of the work of the Satan. He is a manifest misleading enemy." See, he let the anger get to his head. See, this is the Satan. This is classic Satan um, plotting, where he got this anger into Moses, and Moses acted, and he killed the man. See, the warning is here, chapter 35, verse 6. The Satan is an enemy to you, so take him as an enemy. He but calls his party that they might be among the companions of the inferno. So you need to take him as enemies. You need to first figure out where the Satan is, what he's saying, how is he uh, getting a hold of me. Most people go through life without even really questioning the things that come into their head, like, is this from me or is this from Satan? Like, why do I have these evil thoughts in my head? That's really the question. So, and you need to figure out what good and evil is, and you need a criterion for that, which is the Quran. Here you go, chapter 36, verse 60. Did I not commission you, O children of Adam, that you serve not the Satan? He is an open enemy to you. But that you serve me, this is a straight path. And he led astray among you a great multitude. Did you then not use reason? This is Gehenna, which you are promised. Burn therein this day for what you denied. See? Why didn't you not use reason? Why didn't you think things through? That's what God gave you, reason. Use it. Don't let emotions take you over. Okay, how do you avoid that the Satan become a companion to you? If the Satan becomes a companion to you, you're in deep trouble. Okay. And he who is blind to remembrance of the Almighty will assign to him a Satan, and he is to him a companion. And they turn them away from the path while they think that they are guided. So I see this all the time. When I'm driving my car, I pull up on a stoplight, and when I look around, I see people, just nodding their head, listening to music. Like, That's why that's the point, right? Uh, so they have forgotten the remembrance of God, and Satan is to them a constant companion. Okay, chapter 43, verse 62. And let not the Satan divert you, he is to you an open enemy. Divert you from what? And it is knowledge pertaining to the hour, doubt not concerning it, and follow me. This is a straight path. So do not let the Satan divert you from the knowledge that has come, the Quran, because it is about the hour. So don't forget the hour. Don't doubt it. And finally, we have the atheist, the classic atheist like Jordan Peterson. Verse 16, as the likeness of the Satan, when he says to man, deny thou. Then when he denies, he says, I am quit of thee. I fear God, the Lord of all creation. See? At the end of the day, Satan will deny this. All these atheists jumping up and down saying there's no God, show me God, etc., etc. The Satan is getting them amped up, but on the day of judgment, he will turn on his heels and uh, he will absolve himself of them because he knows that this is all a lie. There is a God, and he is a vengeful God. Um, by the way, if you don't know about Jordan Peterson, I know a lot of people follow him and think he's this sort of like learned guy or whatever. He's such a man, and he's built his persona upon this whole, get you up by your bootstraps and become a man, and face the challenges in life. You should look up his history and see what happened to him. This guy actually he had a mental breakdown, and he was in a mental facility for quite a while. Um, and then he comes back and he's doing the same exact thing. Like, who are you to lecture people that they should become men, and you have this knowledge and you understand things when you couldn't handle the heat yourself? Okay, let's move on. Let's look at this one, chapter 58, verse 19. Okay, so this is talking about the waverers, the munafiqeen. It says, hast thou not considered those who take as allies a people with whom God is wroth? They are neither of you nor of them, and they swear to lies, and they know. God has prepared for them a severe punishment. Evil is what they did. They took their oaths as a cover and turned away from the path of God, so for them is a humiliating punishment. Their wealth and their children will avail them nothing against God. They are the companions of the fire, therein they abide eternally. The day God raises them all together, they will swear to him as they swear to you and think that they stand upon something. In truth, it is they who are the liars. The Satan overcame them and made them forget the remembrance of God. Those are the party of the Satan. In truth, the party of the Satan, they are the losers. So don't take those people who are enemies of God as your allies. I know it's difficult in the day and age we live in. I live in the West myself, so I have to deal with atheists day in and day out, but I'm always wary of them. Um, and I don't have any friends who are, deniers of God because I understand what that entails. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. Uh, the Quran gives you a good roadmap, gives you how the Satan works, and really what if you actually again, if you tonight when you're going to sleep, just when you're lying in bed and these thoughts are popping up in your head, try to actually observe them and see that is most of the time is the Satan provoking you to feel guilt or anger or hatred or shame or whatever, um, to forget the remembrance of God, to doubt. Um, and if you actually look at the propaganda that's pumped out day in and day out, the news or the TV or everything, this is it. All they're doing day and night is exactly that, because they are agents of the Satan, as I said. They promise you poverty, that things will, you know, not work out at the end. But we know that those who follow the scripture, those who place their trust in God, God promises them good in this life and the hereafter. So obviously, He will test us, and we will have to deal with a lot of mm, hardship, but at the same time, understand that this is all temporary. We have the greatest achievement waiting if we're patient and put our trust in God, the garden. So we should strive for that, and really gain a foothold um, in that final abode. This is really what it's about. Stay away from these religionists and these sheikhs and muftis and imams, because they are calling men towards the fire, and they're followers of Satan. As I have mentioned in my previous videos, the misguiders of men, that even though they wear this holy garb or whatever, and they um, speak Arabic and etc. etc., but at the end of the day, what they're preaching is evil. So we should be really cautious of them. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope it was of some use to you. God willing, until next time, peace and blessings be upon you.